I really don't need the dissertation of why I made the mistake, because I make mistakes. So with that, I'll give that to Dana.
And when he makes mistakes, he usually knows why he made a mistake, because he's an official, so he's his own worst critic. So it runs in the family. Welcome again to another evening. I believe it's Monday. I don't know, and I don't know which year or which month of which Monday, but here we are again on a Monday night. Tonight we will be having a presentation by our Northeast region, and our presenters this evening are Kim Thomas and Dean Barr. As you saw in the invitation, you saw what their topic will be, and they will take it away as soon as I'm done with this quick introduction. So Dean is our Northeast soccer assigner, and Kim Thomas was a longtime soccer official in the Los Alamos area, and she's helped us the last several years as an assessor. So she's willing to help us in this capacity this evening. And Kim, we certainly appreciate you continuing on with us even after you started running with the youngins up and down the field, up and down the pitch, like my knees would not allow me to. So thank you for staying active within the soccer officiating community and continuing to give back. So as is the case as usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat if they're relevant to what the discussion is. If you have any what if type questions, save those until the end, and Nate and I will definitely stay on for a little bit afterward and answer any of those questions that you may have. I will let you know that as far as COVID goes, we'll defer those. We will be planning a meeting with Sally to do a Q&A with officials at some point soon, obviously. But if you have any of those questions, you can email them to me and I'll give them to Sally, or you can wait until we have that Q&A. So this is, again, tonight's presentation is Kim Thomas, and she's going to be talking about reminders and best practices for assistant referees. So Kim, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you everybody. And I'm glad you're here. I'm trying to see if I can see my presentation. What do you see, Nate?
If you want to go to your slideshow bar and click on at the very top, sorry. All right, there you go, even that. There you go.
There we go. All right, well, what we're going to talk about today is a bunch of reminders and best practices for assistant referees. We're not going to cover absolutely everything you need to know, but in particular for folks who are brand new to our ranks, you're likely to be assigned as an assistant referee on your first matches. And so I hope you find this useful. So as was talked about last week, it's all about teamwork and communication. Robert, Carlos, and Mark talked about this, and it can't be more important. There are 3 teams on the pitch, not just the red team and the blue team, but there's the referee team. And to be successful, each team has got to have solid communication. And our assistant referees are referees. You know, we used to be called linesmen, and many, many years ago, soccer changed us to assistant referees to emphasize the fact that we are, in fact, referees, and our job is to assist the center. We're not second-class referees. You know, many a match has been saved by a strong and supportive and proficient assistant referee who helped the ref pull his keister out of the fire, if you will. And that's recognized by US Soccer and FIFA, where referees are appointed and trained either on an assistant referee track or a referee fourth official track, both of which are extremely important for the game. So really strong, confident, committed ARs are essential for the success of a match and to improve the beautiful game as it's known. So how do we get that communication going, and how do we do our best? Well, prior to game day, you have to do some prep. First and foremost, knowledge of the laws or rules, as they're called in soccer, in high school soccer. And you have a test you have to pass, but anybody knows you can read a driver's manual till you're blue in the face, but until you get behind the wheel of a car, you are not going to be able to drive that vehicle with proficiency. So you have to know the laws. Then you have to attend your local meetings and take up-to-date training and participate to stay on top of current procedures, best practices. You know, what's the overtime rule? What's the tie-breaking rule? What are things that we need to know, points of emphasis for high school soccer? Prior to game day, you should confirm your assignment with not just with your assigner, but with your fellow officials. Are you going to carpool? Who's going to drive? Blah, blah, blah. Know where to go and when to be there. Sometimes it's not at the high school. Sometimes the field is far distant from the school. So make sure you know exactly where your match is going to be held. And as Mark and Carlos and Robert, in particular, Mark talked about last week, check match details to get a feel for what's coming up. What might you see when you get out there for your match? You might look at who are the teams who are playing. Do they have a rivalry? Is it a district match? Who are the leading scorers? But as they emphasized last week, do not assume, do not prejudge. Don't assume that the green team is going to beat the blue team, or that player 12 on team X is going to commit lots of fouls to begin with. But thinking about some of these things ahead of time will have you better prepared for when things happen and for getting a good feel for the match before you even set foot on the field. So on game day, if you cannot make the match or you're going to be late, please, please, please call your fellow officials. They need to know that you're either on your way or you aren't going to make it, so they can get the match started on time and figure out how they're going to compensate for your absence. Always bring your complete kit. It's really, really distressing when you're ready to go and teams have their uniforms on and the only shirt one of your ref team has brought matches one of the other of the teams. Please bring your full kit, your full equipment to every match. Arrive on time or even early, at least 30 minutes before kickoff. I believe that the rules in the soccer manual say 15 minutes, but frankly, 30 minutes is not too soon to be at the field. When you get there, if you're the first one there, you can start a field inspection, but if the whole crew is present, this is a perfect time to start your pregame discussion as you walk around and examine the pitch. One thing in particular for assistant referees to think about is check the field alignment. And by that, I mean, a lot of times a field is not square, or rather it's a rectangle field, but it's not lined up with the telephone poles or some of the stands for the spectators or other aids. And when you line up with that telephone pole that you think puts you in the right position, because the field is actually a little bit skewed, you're not going to be in the right position. So you want to make sure that you understand the field alignment against some of these possible aids that help you with your positioning during the course of the match. Identify the coaches. AR1 in particular needs to know, because you will be responsible for managing the bench for both teams, and you want to know who's supposed to be in charge. And this is a good time to identify and mark off, if you need to, the technical areas, because sometimes the teams put all their bags right up against the touch line, and you don't want the match to start and then have to move everybody back. Get everything set up before the match starts and you'll be in much better position. And you can collect team rosters, which will help your referee. Now, I started with how important communication is and how do we get the best possible communication so that the team of 3 referees can act as a team and really all be together as they do their match. Well, Mark spent some time last week on pregames and how important a thorough pregame really is. And I want to emphasize that a thorough pregame is not just the responsibility of the referee, it is also the responsibility of the assistants. If a subject or a possible incident isn't covered by the ref, the AR should ask, because it's really, really frustrating when you review a match and one of the things that happened was perhaps a missed match critical incident, and the AR says, well, the ref didn't cover that in the pregame. Well, that's no excuse, because it's the responsibility of the team to have a thorough pregame. So last week, Mark covered a bunch of things that would be covered in a pregame, and I'm going to reemphasize them because it can't be overemphasized. So as an AR, you want to be making eye contact at every stoppage of play. Find that center referee and make eye contact, especially before signaling. Your center will talk to you about offside reminders and how important it is to get the offside call proper. We're often admonished to, if in doubt, keep your flag down. So don't put your flag up and then say, well, I wasn't sure if it was off or not. I thought I'd let you decide. No, if you don't know for sure, keep your flag down. Follow all balls to the goal line, even when everyone in the world knows the goalkeeper is going to get it, or it's clearly going to go into touch. Because in the unlikely scenario, the unexpected happens, the only person who's going to be down there on the goal line is you. And if it hits a bad clump of grass, because yes, we still have a few pitches that are natural grass still out there, or it hits a wrinkle in the rug on your AstroTurf, the only person who's going to be down there to be able to assess what happened is the assistant referee. Your ref might cover signaling goals, reminding you that if the ball crosses the goal line but play continues, how you need to signal that. If the ref indicates a goal, but you have information that might contradict that decision, how do you get that information to your center? Mark talked about non-official signals last week, and they're extremely helpful, but only if everyone understands them. You need to know how to get the ref's attention during plays and stoppages, and in particular after a decision has been made by the ref, but before play has been restarted, for example, an apparent goal. If you have information that if the ref has, they might change their decision, you need to know how to get the refs in attention before they restart play. And to that point, when the ref and AR have discussions, they should be private. So it's appropriate for the assistant to step onto the pitch to avoid any eavesdropping, especially if you're AR1 and there's a team right behind you. What are the center referee's way of off signals and a reminder in deportment? And by that, I mean mirroring and supporting the ref's decision. You may be absolutely positive Green touched the ball last and you signaled for Green's throw in, rather for the other opponent's throw in, but the ref signals for Green. Make eye contact, and if the ref does not change, mirror and support your referee. You can talk about what you saw at halftime or the end of the match, but in particular, you want to show consistency and support for the ref's decisions. You need to know how long to hold the flag for offside, ball in and out, fouls. And in particular, do not pop your flag up and then say, ooh, ooh, and quickly pull it down. If you put your flag up, you have told the referee you have information that you need to pass on. And so don't pop your flag up and then quickly pull it down, because that confuses your referee, but it also confuses the players and the coaches. We talked about the mirroring the referee, and when your opposite AR actually has the flag up and it's behind the ref's back, the only way the ref is going to know anything's going on is because you are going to put your flag up. When the referee looks at you, you're going to subtly point across the field, sort of with your hand down at your waist or something, and which will encourage your ref to turn around and look the other way and say, oh, they've got information. Your ref will tell you where they'd like you on set plays and remind you about positioning for penalty kicks. And they'll also talk with you about player management, how they want you to help if they do, setting a wall, dealing with encroachment in your area, whether or not they want you to talk to players in your area, what foul and PK signals in particular, when to and when not to signal. And here's the case where you might get an old-fashioned ref who still says, leave the penalty area to me. Well, you know, if that's what your center referee says, that's what you should be respecting. I put down there distance from incident. You have to have credibility if you're going to make a foul call. You know, I'm not saying that you don't flag when a player decks another player, even if it's 50 yards from you and it happens behind the ref's back. But if you're going to make a foul call, you've got to have credibility. So it can't be 50 yards away from you when you make that call. How do they want you to indicate misconduct? How do they want you to deal with the bench and coach and spectator interference or coach dissent, handling mass confrontations? How do they want you to handle substitutions, in particular for AR1, because you're on the team side? Record keeping. It's really, really frustrating when the center referee wants to double check the score with the ARs and neither AR has kept any record of the match. When you're on the line as an assistant referee, you should be keeping as accurate a match record as you possibly can. If you don't know why the ref sent player X off because it was way at the other end of the field, you at least know a player was sent off and you know what time it happened. Put that in your book and double check at halftime or at the end of the match. Record what you do know, but still keep a match record. How do they want you to indicate time if they do? What's the signal? And then what are their expectations for you at halftime and the end of the match? And my big message here is that as part of the referee crew, you are a referee, but your job is to assist, not insist with the center referee. Even if you disagree what the center asks you to do, your job is to assist. And the best way you can assist is to deal with the game management in a way that the ref will accept. And that's really important. It might be some things that you would do differently, but you want to deal with your center referee in a way they will take your information and benefit from it. So now we got a match and we're ready to start. So walk out to the center of the pitch as a team. You're the AR, you do a final net check, you count players on your side, you see is the keeper ready, take your position to judge offside, make eye contact with the center referee, and only then do you unfurl your flag. Your unfurled flag says, everything's copacetic at this end, we are ready to start, go ahead and blow your whistle, we're with you. So don't unfurl your flag till everything's ready to go on your end of the field. Then you have the matches. So your job is to stay focused for the entire match, watching players at all times, especially behind the ref's back because she can't see behind her. Keep your attention between the lines. And by that, I mean, don't watch where the ball goes when they kick it into touch or who chases it or whatever. Your focus is on the pitch because that's where the action is. So for positioning, we all know about staying with the second to last defender of the ball, whichever's closest to the goal line. But what I want to emphasize here is as that lagging defender wanders up and down because the play is at the other end of the pitch, you should stay with that second last defender as they wander up and they wander back and they wander up, stay with them. Because if you don't, you will get caught flat-footed when there's a quick change in possession. Use football lines when they're available. I mean, it's kind of a great way for us as assistant referees to really be in the right spot. When that player on the far side of the pitch hits the 35-yard line with her foot, so should you hit the 35-yard line on your side. But if there aren't any football marks and it's a standard soccer pitch, what do? Well, when you did your walk around the field, you might have identified a telephone pole or some bleachers or something across the field that will help you stay aligned properly. But you also have things that are part of the field, and that's your center circle, the penalty arc, the penalty area line, the goal area line. And so you can use these devices to help you be aligned properly. So that brings me to the concept of parallax. And that is if you are slightly ahead or slightly behind the key player, you will miss offside. You'll either determine somebody was on incorrectly or you will determine they're off incorrectly. And so I want to challenge you to try something. I call it a practice, but it's sort of a exercise in understanding parallax. And to do this, have two players who are side by side, at least as far away as the center of the field, if not on the far side, and have one slightly ahead of the other, but barely, and do it in such a way that the ARs on this touch line have no idea who's ahead or who's behind. Have the ARs be at least 20 yards, either upfield or downfield, as these players position themselves, and then blow a whistle or something and have an AR run quickly to what they determine to be the proper spot and make an on or off side determination. Then have the ARs step up field about a yard and downfield about a yard from the proper position, and the players have not moved, but your ARs will be able to see how their own assessment of even will change as they step up or down the field from a proper position. And this is a real good exercise for even the most experienced assistant referees, just to get back in the habit of understanding how close a call can be and how important it is to be in the right position to make that call. Face the field as much as possible, not with your back to either goal. It gives you a clear view of all the players, and you only need to pivot 90 degrees instead of a possible 180 for a fast break. But stay off the touch line because players need to be able to play along it, and they even need to be allowed to run outside if they're playing the ball. And in particular, if the ball hits you, you want to be sure that it wholly crossed the line and was into touch before it hit you. You don't want the ball rebounding off of you and staying in play, because the players will be confused as all heck. And yes, we have a new restart procedure, but you don't want to even have to get involved in that. And as I said, follow all balls to the goal line, even when you're the only one running down there, because you have to be there if anything untoward happens. And then on set plays, you follow your pregame instructions, whatever your center referee asked you to do. Reminder, we've all seen these kind of diagrams. The pitch area that you are most responsible for goes from your goal line to the halfway line. And then even with the second to last defender or the ball, whichever is closest to the goal line. So let's talk about movement. So you're on the line and all the play is at the opposite end of the field. And it is actually about 30 degrees and it's starting to rain. You are freezing and you're not moving because there's nothing for you to do. It is really important for you to keep your knees flexed and your feet limber. You want to have happy feet. If you have to pump your feet up and down, you don't want to be bouncing around like you're on a pogo stick, but you do need to keep yourself limber and be ready for that fast break if you need to. Side to side movement, crabbing, going right, going left. Only move with your back to the goal when it's necessary to keep up with play. Anticipate the fast breaks being ready to sprint in either direction. And that means that while you are watching what's going on downfield, anticipating a fast break, you need to keep track of that second last defender, because that player may be moving up and down. And the last thing you want to do is turn for a fast break and have no clue where the second last defender was, because you lost track of them because you were so intent on watching play at the other end of the field. You've got a flag. What's it for? Your flag is to tell the center referee, I have information for you. So I'm not going to go through all the various signals, but I'm going to emphasize a couple of things we want to keep in mind, especially for folks who are new to refereeing and, it may not have sunk in how important this is. Keep the flag in the hand nearest to the referee and on the field side of your body. So when you're running up and down the pitch, make sure you switch hands and have the flag on the field side, because the flag on the opposite side, the ref can't see it and it's not doing any good. If you have to switch your hands as you turn and run in the opposite direction, switch hands down below at your waist, not above your head. This will happen to you. You will at some point in your career drop the flag. And if you drop the flag and a signal is needed, just use your arm. Pick up the flag later. You can make the right signal without a flag in your arm, because the flag actually is really just an extension of your arm. For throw-ins and fouls, if you can remember this and get it right, raise the flag in the hand the direction the throw or the kick will go. So if it's Green's throw and Green is going to your left, raise your flag with your left hand. If it's Red's throw and Red is going to your right, raise the flag in your right hand. This is something that is not always easy to do, and the world doesn't come to an end if you don't do it this way, but this is something to work on. Only waggle the flag above your head. You've raised it, and give it a waggle to indicate a foul. That's all a waggle says to the ref, is you are calling a foul. If you need to get the ref's attention for anything else, you've talked in the pregame about how the ref wants you to get their attention. When you're sprinting, keep that flag, which is on the field side, pointed straight down. Keep it as motionless as you possibly can as you're sprinting. Don't pump with that flag in your arm, because it's a big distraction. For corners and goal kicks, indicate with the flag in your hand nearest the goal, which is usually your right hand. And that's because you get better eye contact with the referee, in particular on goal kicks. You don't have your arm blocking your face. If it's a corner kick and you're way down at the, take one step up field, so that when you point at 45 degrees to the corner flag, you're pointing actually at the flag, not past it. And when you're mirroring the trailing AR, flag straight up, your center referee looks at you and probably wonders, why on earth is my AR raising the flag? There's nothing going on. That's when you can give your little subtle pointing to the trailing AR, so that the ref will turn around and say, oh, they've got information for me. So, here are some of the signals we're all familiar with. And in this player, assistant on the far right is signaling a foul, because you can see the player with the elbow right up at the neck of their opponent. So on substitutions, this is in particular important for both ARs, not just AR1. In fact, a lot of times AR1 is way down at the goal line and doesn't know that a player has stepped up to the midway and wants to substitute. It's often the trailing AR who's going to actually see that a sub is waiting. So flag up over your head, parallel with the stick, parallel to the ground. But as soon as the center referee acknowledges that substitutions are wanted, bring your flag down. You don't hold your flag up over your head the entire time waiting for the subs to be completed. However, there is a useful unofficial signal that many AR1s have used to help the center referee. And that is you can hold the flag straight down behind your back. And when the subs are completed, you bring the flag back to proper position. So the center knows that while you're holding the flag behind your back, things are still going on and don't start play. For AR1, again, you talk to your center ref in the pregame, well, how do they want you to handle subs? But if there are a lot of subs at one time, you can help the center referee by coming down to the halfway line to manage the subs. In particular, you want to make sure that players come off before subs come on. And of course, you want to count players when the substitution has been completed. Goal scoring. That's what the whole game is. Right, is the team that scores the more goals wins the match. So if an apparent goal has been scored and you're the AR and you have no issues with it, you make eye contact with the center referee, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. And when that contact is made, you turn and you jog slowly several yards upfield. That says, center referee, I had no problems with the goal. And from my aspect, it was good. If an apparent goal has been scored, but the scorer was offside, you raise your flag, you make eye contact with the center referee, and then when that eye contact is made, you indicate with the normal offside signal, far, middle, near, and the ref knows the scorer was the player that was offside, and presumably, if they agree with your signal, they will disallow the goal. If an apparent goal's been scored, but you have an issue with anything other than the scorer being offside, somebody completely blocked and impeded the goalkeeper, the attacker hit it in with her hand, whatever it is that you have a problem with, you remain at attention with your flag down and you don't jog up the touchline. When the referee realizes you're not moving, but everybody else thinks there's a goal been scored, beckon the ref over, give your information, and then nod your head. No matter what the referee is saying, nod and agree and show everybody who can't hear what you're saying, but you have a uniform acceptance of the decision, whether it's a goal or no goal. Now, if the ball wholly and properly crosses the goal line for a goal, but it remains in play, the keeper reaches in, is able to quickly throw it back out into the pitch or whatever, what you do is you raise your flag, you're indicating that the ball was out of play. Now you keep your flag up, you stay at attention, and when the ref looks at you, again, making eye contact, then you jog upfield. And by jogging upfield, you're telling the referee a goal was scored. Your flag up says the ball was out of play, and your jogging up the field says a goal was scored. So again, it's a little bit counterintuitive for ARs to stand at attention without a flag up when an apparent goal has been scored and there's no, and there's a problem other than the scorer being offside. But that's the proper signal, and hopefully your center referee will look at you before declaring a successful goal. Well, now, how do you help with game and player management? Well, follow your pregame instructions, number one. But in general, you as an AR should be prepared to, in dealing with, for example, fouls, you want to talk to players in your area, unless you've been told not to, because in particular, what you're doing is reminding them that, hey, you're part of the referee team, you're alert to what's going on. So you can say things like play the ball, hands down, and Mark talked last week a little bit about some of the things coaches don't like you to say, but you can just be there and make sure they know that, hey, it's not just the person in the center who's watching what's going on. you on the touchline are also aware, and you're going to be calling fouls if it's justified. Only call fouls you're sure the ref couldn't see, or for which you are positive you had the clearest, most direct view, and this is an important and, that you believe the ref would have whistled had she seen it. That's really important. You have to pay attention to that referee's foul discrimination bar, because you want to do your absolute best to match it, regardless of whether or not, if you'd been the center, you would have called it or not called it. You match your foul recognition and your discrimination to the center referee, independent of what you would do if you were the center. Normally, you would, as an AR, you would be signaling only direct free kicks, unless, of course, an indirect free kick infraction is a match critical incident. And we'll give some examples of those in a minute. Misconduct, in accordance with your pregame instructions, you need to indicate to the ref that misconduct has occurred if they haven't seen it. And then the degree. So again, in your pregame, you've talked about how you signal when you think it should be a caution versus a send-off. Something to keep in mind for high school in particular is if a player's been sent off, AR1 should make sure that player is sitting quietly on the bench, not raising a ruckus. They shouldn't be jumping up and down and yelling. Certainly they can cheer, but they should not be certainly dissenting or anything like that. Students are generally not directed to leave the field unless they're in the accompanied by a team official. In other words, we don't send unaccompanied minors completely away off the field outside the fences like we adults. So we all recognize this. It happens in almost every match, and we have the issues of dissent. And remember, in particular in high school, the pitch and the match are all supposed to be an extension of the classroom. If you wouldn't tolerate certain behaviors inside a classroom, you shouldn't be tolerating them on the pitch. And frankly, this is a higher standard than typical club matches. You shouldn't have rabbit ears picking up, every little inconsequential complaint or something like that. But it's very, very important that you not allow dissent or certainly harassment of opponents. Remember the 3 Ps that they talk about in US soccer, and the 3 Ps are if the verbiage or personal actions is public, personal, or provocative, you need to deal with it. And in particular, I want to emphasize that failure to deal with dissent is not a sign of strength. I want to say that again. Failing to deal with it isn't a sign of strength. Oh, I'm macho, it didn't bother me. He can call me anything he wants. I don't care what he says about my mother. I think she's a jerk too, blah, blah, blah. None of that is appropriate because it's a sign of weakness. Here's the point. When you fail to deal with misconduct and dissent, what you're actually doing is teaching the players and their coaches that such behavior is acceptable. You're training them that behavior's okay. And by doing that, you set them up, and much more importantly, in my mind, you set our fellow referees up for the next match, because you've just taught them that this kind of behavior is perfectly okay and you didn't deal with it. They then exhibit that behavior in their next match. Maybe they have a beginning referee who gets and doesn't know how to deal with it. Or maybe they have a very experienced ref who says, you've already crossed the line. I'm sending you off right off the bat. And the coach is incredulous because last week it was okay. So it's just extremely important that while you don't nitpick, but you be very conscious of dealing with bad behavior and not allow it to continue. So you're AR1 and there's some chipping and there's going on, and you've talked to the coach a couple of times, but it continues. And when it keeps on going, you shouldn't make threats, say, well, one more outburst like that and I'm going to have the ref send you off or anything like that. Nor should you criticize the ref and say, trying to make friends, well, I wouldn't have made that call. You absolutely never throw your ref under the bus. But if the negative behavior continues, call your referee over. And you've talked about this in your pregame. But in most cases, your center referee is ready to tell them or dismiss them because you, as AR1, have already done all the ask part. But that's up to the center referee, and you've talked about in your pregame. Keep in mind that coaches are responsible for their players' behavior. And in the event you can't identify a specific player or coach who has committed misconduct, somebody shouts obscenities from the bench or something like that, and you have no idea who it was, but it was public, personal, and provocative, the coach is sanctioned. So it's important as AR1 that you know who the coaches are so that you can approach the right adult. In the rare but not unheard of event that you have a mass confrontation, and a mass confrontation is defined by basically your bench clearing or something like that. AR1, who's on that side where the benches are, should be taking numbers, but the first thing is try using your voice to keep people on the bench, but that's oftentimes not possible. But, warn everybody, stay on the bench, stay in your area, don't join in. If a bunch of people are suddenly accosting other players and the referee, AR2 should come all the way across the field if necessary. And AR2, AR1, and the refs sort of make a triangle around the melee and just take numbers. Never, never, never touch or try to pull back or hold people who are involved. You will either get sued for wrenching somebody's shoulder, or you'll get your head knocked off because they take a swing and they hit you instead of their opponent. So never touch or pull or try to physically restrain players or coaches, and don't get too close. You want to keep yourself out of harm's way. If your center referee or an AR is being personally accosted, the other match officials should come directly to their aid and circle around them and make a threesome, as opposed to leaving that one person hanging out there all alone. I mentioned earlier, ARs need to recognize match critical incidents and be prepared to help the center referee in dealing with them. So what are some match critical incidents? Well, whether a goal has been scored or not scored and it's wrong, or at least the AR has information that if you could get it to the referee, they might change their decision. They've given a second caution but didn't send the player off. They sent off the wrong player or cautioned the wrong player. They awarded or didn't award a PK, and you have critical information for them. They didn't deal with denial of a goal scoring opportunity. They caught the retaliation, but they didn't catch the instigation that you as an AR had a great view of, or they didn't deal with violent conduct that perhaps happened behind their back or serious foul play. You need to give that information to your center. And then an incorrect application of the laws if it has a significant impact on the match. That doesn't mean that the throw in at midfield should go into blue instead of green. It's got to be something much more significant than that. And these are just examples of match critical incidents. But ARs need to understand this. It's not just, oh, well, the ref didn't do anything. Well, why didn't you say something? Oh, I didn't think he wanted me to. Again, that gets us all the way back to the pregame and how important it is to share information. And that brings us to halftime. So the whistle blows for the end of the first half, center referees should enter and leave the field together. So the ARs should run over and join your center, go off to your bags, hydrate, make your trip to the loo if you need to. But before halftime is over, you need to be sure to get together to share observations and recommendations about players, team tactics, things you've observed, problems. If there are any communication glitches, this is the chance you have to fix that and to give feedback to one another as you start the second half. Because as we remember, the first 5 minutes of the second half are not the same as the end of the first half. It's almost like a new game. Players have had a lot of time to adjust their playing. Their coaches certainly tried to adjust some of the things they've been doing. So AR should not hesitate to share information with the other AR as well as with the center referee. Some of the examples I've put here, something like, you want to watch 17 Green. She's committed 3 fouls in the last 10 minutes of the half. You might be thinking about persistent infringement. You've got teams will change tactics when they come out for the second half. And so while the blue sweeper was hanging way back and his keeper kept telling him push up and he wasn't doing it, maybe he got the message at halftime. And now that team may have a successful offside trap going on. And there are just a whole slew of types of examples, but don't hesitate to share information with one another that can help your center referee and help your opposite AR, because you will now switch teams as to who's going to be watching what's going on. So you've helped all throughout the match, and now the final whistle has blown. So you're all done, right? You fold up your flag, you leave the pitch with your center referee, you grab your bag and you run to your car. Not what happens. Because just because the final whistle's blown, you are not done yet. So you join the center referee, and with your other AR, you leave the pitch together, in particular watching for shenanigans by players. We're not doing the handshakes or anything like that, especially with COVID, and there's no need to sort of be monitoring everything. But you are still in charge as a referee team while you are still on the pitch. And so you want to be alert to anything that might happen, even though the playing has ended. You want to confirm the final score with the ref. That's why you've kept track of everything you possibly could keep track of, as if you had been a center referee. Confirm the time and the identification of the goal scorers, and if any players were cautioned or sent off, who they were and what the reasons were for their punishment. You also want to note anything else the ref should put in the game report. The center referee does the game report, but you want to include things like field and host location issues if the fields were mismarked, or if there was a serious injury, or in particular, record and report good things, good sportsmanship. The host had plenty of water, or they helped you, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what, but there's lots of times we're really eager to report all the bad stuff, and we rarely take the time to report good things. So please, I want to encourage you to encourage your center referee to put down the good stuff in the game reports too. I know that NMOA wants to hear about it, and I'm sure that the coaches in the schools want to hear about it. But you're still not done. So the scorer came over and you signed the forms and blah, 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 and everybody's copacetic with what the final score is, but you're still not done. Once the game report information is finalized, the ref crew should conduct a constructive debrief. And by this, I don't mean you spend half an hour or 45 minutes and yak, because you're really anxious to get home and get dinner, I'm sure. But take just a few minutes, even if it's while you're walking to your cars. What worked well? What did the ARs do to help the ref? So the center ref can tell the ARs, this was really good. I really appreciated when every time I looked up, I caught your eye. I could tell you were looking at me. That was really helpful, whatever it was. And then what did the center referee do for you as an AR to keep you engaged? They gave you thumbs up. They gave you smiles. They took your calls. They came over and talked to you. Whatever it was that the ref did that you want them to keep doing, you want to make sure they know about it. What game and player management tactics worked that the team used, that the ref team used? What worked? And then, of course, what didn't go so well? And that's not a critique of you blew it, you should have done, it would have been blah, blah, blah. But in a way, what might be tried next time? We did this, here's what we were thinking, but maybe next time this might be worth trying. You want to keep the comments constructive and supportive. The goal is for the crew to improve both collectively and individually, because the better the referee teams can perform, it's better for the beautiful game, as soccer is known throughout the world. With that, I have some resources listed. This presentation is in the hands of Nate and Dana, and I told them they're free to give it to anybody who wants it. So for those of you who have some brand new folks or some inexperienced folks that might benefit from reviewing some of this stuff at your local team meetings, feel free to ask for it and use it, and enjoy being out there on the pitch. And I hope we have a season.
So
That's
Kim,
it.
we do have a question. What she would do if the assistant coach is showing dissent, has been warned, and the head coach is sitting quietly and making no effort to control the assistant. Many of us have seen this over the years.
Well, one of the things you can do is you can go to the head coach and say, Coach, I'd appreciate your help with your assistant. And if they ignore you or blow you off, a lot of times, in fact, the assignment is to the assistant to be obnoxious and out of control, because the head coach doesn't want to risk being told or dismissed. And they set it up on purpose for the assistant to be the obnoxious one. And when they refuse to deal with it or help you, you can, you don't have to go to ask, tell, dismiss. You can go straight to dismiss, and you can send off the assistant. There's no reason you have to work your tail to the bone. If your head coach is not helping, you just send the assistant away. And that's one of your tactics. It's people management, and so it's a function of how you personally best interact with those individuals.
All right, and here's a comment in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, there's a question in the private chat early on in the presentation when you were talking about field alignment and positioning, and the question just asked if you would be willing or able to elaborate a little bit more on those topics.
On positioning?
Field alignment and positioning.
Oh, field alignment. Well, what I meant was, that sometimes you're out there, and when you think that the field is set up square within the stadium, for example, or within, a lot of times this happens on multi-field venues, and it may not be perpendicular to the bathrooms, for example, or to the snack bar. In fact, the field could be skewed it's still a rectangle, and it's still got 90 degrees in each corner, but the whole field is pivoted just enough that when you think you're lined up looking at the bathroom on the far side, in fact, you are not in the proper position. And that can be really, really disconcerting because you don't expect that to be the case.
Thank you.
All
And
right,
then,
and so,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry, Dave.
no, go ahead. I was, you and I are probably going to read the exact same one. There was a comment about the rosters, and it just said, a reminder to all ARs that the team roster must have the players' first and last names and numbers along with the names of all coaches or other team officials. So that was more of a comment. And then Nate, go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. Kim, should the 3 Ps all be present in order to give a card or just one of them? And I think you kind of answered that, but.
Yeah, it depends on the degree. I mean, something very personal doesn't have to also be, well, doesn't have to be public if it's across the line. But those are the 3 things to keep in mind. The kid who whiffs the ball and utters an expletive, and the only person who heard it besides the kid who said it to himself is you, the ref, as you're running by, or you rather, we're talking AR, so as the AR, you're in the corner and you hear the kid say it, and you're the only 2 people who heard him say the expletive. That's not public. It may be personal in the sense he's calling himself something, and it's probably not provocative, and you don't have to do anything except say, you said shoot, right? Or you don't even necessarily have to say something. But when somebody has made it very public and it's clearly dissent, you need to deal with it. Or very provocative or very personal.
All right, and here's a question in the private, and it's probably going to be a Sally question. Will they be doing contact tracing by the game reports or rosters?
Yeah, that would definitely be a Sally question. And I believe the next one in the chat is also probably a Sally question. Since the players have to wear their mask as if they're playing, are we going to call a foul if they bring the mask below their chin? My opinion, and this is an opinion only, I know this came up, Stacy and the soccer coaches, if it's prolonged where they take it off so they can run up and down the pitch, that would be something. But if they take it down to, wipe the sweat or do something, I think that becomes a common sense issue, just as it would in other sports. Nate, I don't know from your experience on the basketball side, what are you seeing with that?
It's happening. They're falling down. Obviously, in the college game, they're not required to wear them. Playing in high school, they're going to be required. I, as an official, would hate. We already have to police uniforms, which is probably my least favorite thing as an official. I just don't see how we can enforce that consistently, and I would imagine that Sally will give us some guidance on that.
And we'll actually also ask the Federation about that and just see what they're seeing in other states where there is a mask requirement. As Nate said, that's not where we want your focus, is on kids without masks. I think if somebody takes it down for a second for whatever reason, I don't particularly have an issue about it. If they're pulling it down and running around the field with it down, that would be another issue entirely. And what we need to clarify would be from the Federation if that would be an illegal uniform issue, or if that's just something where you talk to the coach and say, hey, number 24 keeps taking her mask off or taking his mask off. So we'll get clarification. Again, what I just told you was simply my opinion and not the rule, but we will get that information for you. Any other questions for Kim? Kim, great job. That was awesome. I enjoyed that presentation quite a bit. Nate and I were texting each other parts of the presentation that we're going to use for all of our sports. So there was some stuff that definitely has wide-reaching applicability, and we appreciate that. Does anybody have anything for Kim or anything for myself and Nate at this time? Let's see. Does the NMOA have any guidance on us supporting scrimmages as they're requested by schools? There are no scrimmages this year because of COVID. So this year there will be no scrimmage. I don't know if that answers your question, Bill.
There has been talk about, can officials go to team practices and kind of run with them. I don't believe that Sally has actually gotten a response on that or given a response on that. So just if that is a possibility, you guys will be the first to know.
And we will let you know. That was something that came to us from another sport. They asked if they could go work some practices just to get some experience with masks on and with running with masks on, which I had sent an email earlier. If you haven't tried to run with your mask on, make sure you do that. Being in shape and being in mask shape are two totally different things, I think, especially in a sport where you run as much as you all do. So go take some laps if you can. I saw a question up here a second ago. Will there be sub-varsity games? Tentatively, yes. So we are allowing, obviously, participation at all levels. It's going to be up to the schools if they'll field sub-varsity teams at this point. So schools are aware that they aren't required to participate. They can opt out this year because of difficulties with COVID, but that'll be up to the schools whether or not they field sub-varsity. Man, there's a lot of compliments for you, Kim, here in the chat. So.
Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you find it useful, and for folks who couldn't attend or who are near, please take what you can use and chuck the rest.
And what we'll do is, since Kim has so graciously said we can share the slides, we'll actually post that and send a link so that you can get that PowerPoint. You'll also get a copy of this recording as well, so that if there's something you want to kind of hear her interpretation or take on, you can always you can check the tape and see what she said. So really good stuff though, Kim. I really appreciate it. And like I said, thank you so much for staying active as a what is it called on the USSF side, a referee emeritus?
Yes, that's right.
See, I've learned a couple of things, so definitely thank you for staying involved. We appreciate that, and we learned so much from our retired officials, so thank you.
Yeah, Bill, anything COVID related is really going to be a Sally question. We really don't have answers for that yet. And I know that Sally and Chris and Scott and Dusty are working on guidelines, and you guys, as soon as we have all that stuff, you guys will all be notified.
And I would imagine on the 22nd, February 22nd is your district clinic. So I imagine a lot of the COVID stuff, a lot of the competition guidelines as far as COVID, that will all be presented during that February 22nd clinic. That'll be coaches and referees. So we do ask that you try to attend. It'll be recorded. So if you can't attend, we'll send it to you. But we'll go over a lot of that stuff regarding eligibility and positive tests and all of that stuff that evening. So hold on to those questions until then. And like I said, we're going to try to get a Q&A soon with Sally for officials so that she can field these questions, since she's the person with the answers to those. All we know is officials are wearing masks.
Dana, Nate, where do you think the participant schools are? 80% will be able to participate, or 50-50 still?
Don't know at this point, Bill. We'll get, as soon as we get that list, the schools have until I believe February 15th to kind of declare if they're going to participate. So we'll know more by then. Right now, absolutely no idea. I think you could pick a number, close your eyes and pick a number, and you'll probably be just as accurate to say, guess I gave you. So we'll get that to you as soon as we know. Like I said, February 15th is their cutoff to kind of declare, and then we'll have a better idea.
Good.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
It's exactly following that one. Okay. And the governor just said it on TV tonight. If a school goes hybrid, they're eligible to participate in sports. If the school does not go hybrid, they cannot participate in sports. Now, I'm a teacher. I'm offended by that, because I have seen students come in to school under a hybrid condition and have to quarantine. I'm in quarantine right now because I was in a room with one other person that had COVID. You're going to bring 400 kids back or more back to schools. you're going to have major problems. And are we doing this just so they can play sports? That's my question to ask to Sally for future reference, because.
And again, that if you wanted to send that to her, you could, or if you want to wait until you have the Q&A, you absolutely can, or during the district clinic, that would be an appropriate venue to ask, to answer, or to ask that question. I apologize.
I think, my lead into that was Albuquerque Public Schools for our central region is probably 80% of our teams. They did not have a hybrid program approved that I was aware of. So they're on the clock to get that done pretty quick if they want any sports for their schools, right?
I would imagine there's a number of districts that are in that same situation. I don't think it's exclusively APS. So we're just waiting for everybody to make decisions. We're in hurry up and wait mode still. I think I said that last week. Unfortunately, we haven't received a whole lot of additional information from the governor or the PED at this point. But
And I will say that as
once you know,
officials,
you'll know.
Are we assuming
and I
that
will say
if, are we assuming
I will
that
say
if,
that as an official, I will say that as an official, and I've made several comments in various sports. We really are kind of the ones that just kind of wait and see, and a lot of these things are out of our control. But I know as an official that we'll be prepared when we're called upon, and if we're not ready and we don't feel comfortable being out there, it's not too late to opt out, and it is okay, and we will respect your decision. But like I can speak for myself personally, I will do what I have to be on the basketball court. You will do what you have to do to be on the pitch, and if you're not comfortable, we respect those decisions, and we just have to be ready and prepared.
are we going to assume that some of the, let's say one of these 2 or 3 scenarios might occur, that somebody might get a positive 3 days before a match, or 2 days before a match, and those matches will go away and probably not be rescheduled, number one. Number two, if there is a positive that's reported after a match and somebody says, are we all quarantining now for the next 14 days? Will that happen? And if it does, how are we going to become aware of that kind of situation?
Again, these are all questions for Sally. We don't have those answers. Early when we talked about it, when we were planning to play in October, we did talk about if there's a positive COVID test with a team, we would obviously notify the officials involved. But aside from that, that was October that we had that conversation. So I don't know where we are now. Hang on to that question for February 22nd, and that'll be the prudent time to ask that, or shoot me an email and I'll get it to Sally because she's the person taking the correct questions.
I have a question. I know we're supposed to be ready for each game, and sometimes anything can happen. Even during the match, since we're wearing our masks, if for some reason, a bus or whatever, will there be somebody there to provide additional masks in case of that stuff?
They'll be up to the host school. So Sally and Scott Owen in our office and Dusty Young, they have worked on competition guidelines for all sports. And I know that they have talked about, I haven't seen them at this point because I think they're still being approved by the governor's office, but I believe that they have some verbiage about what the host school responsibility is in terms of sanitation and masks and that kind of stuff. So again, once we send you those competition guidelines, once they're finalized, you'll be able to see what that school responsibility is as well, because we don't have those answers right now.
Okay.
Well, Nate and I don't. Somebody might, but we don't.
And one more question. Is there I don't know if you know or not, but is there the possibility that that we won't have to use a mask, or is this going to be for the rest of this season?
It will likely be for the rest of the season. Essentially, that is a governor's order. So as long as the governor has a mask mandate in the state of New Mexico, officials will have to wear them. That's something that's totally outside of our jurisdiction. If she has the mask mandate, then officials wear them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's a question in the chat. Can you extend the deadline to opt out until the district clinic? Are you talking about for officials or for schools? And then as that question gets answered to me, perhaps the NMAA could persuade the DOH to include high school officials as a preferred group to get a COVID vaccine. We actually have already asked that question to the DOH and are awaiting an answer. So we're dealing with the DOH, the PED, and the governor, and we're waiting for answers. That's about the best I can tell you. Officials really can opt out at any time. That February 15th deadline is for schools to opt out. So if officials want to opt out, you can do that whenever you feel you need to, if that is your plan. Just don't do it after you've accepted games. That would be the only preference. So if you're going to opt out, do it before you start game assignments. Can you use a horn to officiate? I'm not sure I'm understanding. Instead of a whistle? If you mean instead of a whistle, the answer would be no.
And folks, I have refereed my last few basketball games with a mask and a whistle under that mask. And I don't run as much as you do in the sport of soccer, but I do run. And that mask does not come off at any time for me. Locker room, post-game, pre-game, during the game. And I'm telling you, after the first minute of the game, I forget that it's there. It really is not bad at all.
Okay, any other non-COVID questions at this time? And again, we'll keep you all as updated as we can. Again, mark that February 22nd date on your calendar for the district clinic. And if we have a Q&A with Sally prior to then, I'll certainly let you know. I'm working on that with her right now because we'll have to have 3 or 4 just to cover all of our sports and officials. And we'll probably do those separately just because there's going to be some different questions for each one. Obviously, wearing a mask as a volleyball official is a little bit different than wearing a mask as a soccer official. So we'll probably separate those out. So be on the lookout for those dates and times and Zoom links and all of that. And certainly if you think of something between now and our next one of these or our next set of email, just feel free to shoot me and or Nate an email and we'll get it fielded to the correct people in our office.
We're still looking at 2 district meetings before our particular district meeting.
Do you mean 2 meetings, NMAA meetings, or I'm sorry?
Of these, we're looking at 2 more of these before our specific district meetings.
I think just one more, Steve, because of the holiday on February 15th, we're closed for President's Day. Actually, this might be all before then. Sorry, I'm looking at my calendar. I can't multitask.
We've got another one next week, 2/8.
Yes, so
And
there
then,
will be one on 2/8 and then nothing the week of the 15th and then the district clinic on the 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was looking at 50,000 meetings on my phone and got a little lost on there. Thanks for the assist there.
And Nate, if these meetings are recorded, people that miss them can watch them. Can we get that link?
Yep. So in those meeting attendance logs I send out, obviously, because I'm in quarantine, I haven't been able to send those out. I will be able to send them out this week. But those links are there with that meeting attendance log. So the individuals that aren't on this to get the same email that you do, even if you're here, it just says pretty much, here's the link to the video. You can watch it for your review. And then if you didn't attend, then here's the link for the makeup assignment with the video above. So yeah, we'll send these out.
And the way that works for the makeup is officials who miss a meeting, they have 2 weeks from the date that Nate sends that out. So like, it's not 2 weeks from the meeting. Sometimes we do get busy and we can't get the logs out right away. So if he sends the log out on the 18th, you'll have until the 22nd to get the 8th, you'll have until the 22nd to get that assignment in. So the reason we do that is so people don't wait until the very end of the season and then make up 8 meetings. So that that gets a little bit crazy, but Nate will send that stuff out next week. And like he said earlier, if there's any errors or anything that you notice, just shoot him a nice email and say, hey, just want to make sure this was accurate. A lot of times what happens is when you register and then when you attend, you put 2 different names, or on one I have a phone number, on the other one I have a name, and I don't have any way to connect the 2. So just sometimes it just takes us going back in our records to make sure that we've got the right stuff.
Yeah, Nate. Hello.
Yes.
There you go. This is Benedicto, Nate. You mentioned the first meeting that you use a whistle or a mask with a whistle that is very comfortable to referee with.
Yep. So I use the Under Armour mask. And the reason why is it actually has almost like it doesn't sit on your mouth. It actually has a little bit of space. Yeah, the whistle does rub up against it a little bit. But it's actually pretty comfortable and it's breathable. And when you sweat, it just kind of, it gets a little wet, but it's good.
Yeah, can I ask you, where did you get it from?
Yeah, I just went to underarmour.com. In fact, I think the deal is still on. It's 2 for 1 right now. Buy one, get one free.
Oh, I love that. That's pretty
Like
good.
the sale.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I mean,
know
it's
somebody else's.
it's $40 for the 2.
Yeah.
So really what they did is just decrease the price of the mask, because they were $30 and now they're 40 for 2. So they're 20 a piece.
Oh, well, yeah, well, not bad. So 20 a piece. And you said Under Armour?
Underarmour.com.
.com. Okay, I got you. Thanks a lot for that tip, because
no
I was kind of thinking that make a hole in one of my masks and then, just keep it over there. That's what I was thinking.
No,
But no,
it would probably, yep, this is good.
Yeah, okay, cool. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're okay. I thought you were sick for a moment.
He keeps saying he's quarantined. I keep saying he's grounded, but it's okay.
Hey, Nate,
Yeah,
how about your
actually,
basketball
that's what it
officials? Your basketball officials that wear glasses. There's many of us with glasses, and the fogging is quite a problem.
Yeah, I don't, fortunately, I don't have to wear glasses, but I have not worked with anyone that is wearing glasses. Usually, they're wearing contacts. I don't know. If anyone finds a mask that doesn't fog, please share with us, because we've had that question come to our office a few times.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But I have not worked with anybody that has that wears glasses on the court. I mean, they wear glasses, but they don't wear them on the court. They wear contacts.
And the only officials that I've talked to who have worn glasses and masks are volleyball, and they aren't having that issue, A, because they're not running, B, because they're using an electronic handheld whistle. So if I hear of anybody, though, that's used them, we'll make sure that we get that information. Oh, look, let's see. I'm having thank you, Dick Williams. I'm having good luck with the Halo Life mask not fogging my glasses. So there's a potential tip for glasses wearers. I get stressed out when I'm wearing my sunglasses and a mask and I can't see. So I understand where you're coming from. And if I didn't have my contacts, then I wouldn't be able to see the screen. So there's my level of visual impairment. So Halo Life.
Thank you, Ms. Dana.
I'm sorry?
You have a wonderful, thanks a lot for everything. And yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
For all the tips, and Kim, she did a tremendous job over there. There were 2 points over there. It's not that I haven't heard them or I don't know. It's because with so many referees that I have worked, a lot of referees, that, sometimes we don't touch, a couple of those points over there, very important. And yeah, I need to talk to Ms. Kim later on about that.
They're good reminders. Even if you've heard them before, it's good to hear them again, and especially right before the start of the season. So I like reminders myself.
No, that was cool. Actually, very insightful, that presentation from Ms. Kim.
Awesome. Oh, look, here's a Gosh, you guys are a wealth of information. Let's see. Todd, thank you for this. Amazon spray glasses prevents lenses devices. Thank you for that. It looks like there's another product. I hope you guys are getting commissions from these
That's
companies.
cool, yeah. Okay, we're gonna, and I'm gonna go to this site, you know, the internet site to see if I can get some of those masks.
Check it. Yeah, check out our Under Armour. I'm pretty sure Nate is now getting a commission from them.
Right. Okay. Is there any name of
Look.
this mask? It just or just like that? Well, I think they had pictures of them.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's, they only have,
Okay.
yeah, they really only have one mask. I know that they, you know, there's a, it's like a blackish, grayish, and that will be acceptable. It's pretty much
yeah,
black.
cool. Oh, cool. Oh,
It's like a
great.
charcoal.
Okay. Well, Nate, God bless you, man. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Papas.
Yes, sir.
Bless you.
Oh.
All right, everybody, if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and let you enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Again, if you think of anything, just let us know and we'll take care of it the best we can. Thank you all for your patience, your flexibility, and for remaining light on your feet. We appreciate everything that you do. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Thanks, everyone.
You all.